a specific subject which we have covered in our work on India-Bangladesh border huts, which we have been implementing in partnership with Unnayan Samanvay in Bangladesh and with support from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom. Now, under this project, among other things, we have also looked at how this initiative, how this uh, border trade approach in a formal manner without getting into trade regulations can be leveraged for several other development initiatives. And one of those issues which we have looked at is how it can be leveraged for fostering as well as exploring value chains on agriculture commodities and other commodities, including agricultural inputs, for the betterment of cross-border trade between India and Bangladesh, and most importantly, for border area development, for generating new income and other livelihood opportunities for the people residing in our border areas. And this is how we are looking at border areas, not as a place to be known as crime, violence against women, violence against humanity as a whole, but as places of prosperity. And how economic transactions, economic development initiatives can foster peace, stability, security, and prosperity in border areas. From our work, we have found that in places where border huts are there, relatively better peace, more prosperity, more security, more stability in life are also there. So on that note, today in today's webinar, we are going to discuss two papers which our project advisory committee, two of our project advisory committee members have prepared. One has looked at seeds as perhaps the most important inputs for our agricultural development, and the other has looked at value chains in various other commodities, including agricultural commodities. The one on seeds has been written by Mr. Sudhir Chandranath. Let me introduce him very briefly. If anybody wants to talk about the seed industry or the seed sector in Bangladesh, all roads go to Mr. Nath. So Sudhirda, welcome. And once again, I thank you for writing this very
Thank you.
interesting paper, eye-opener, so as to say in some sense. And the other is written by Biswajit Chakrabarti, who is heading the Northeast Regional Office of the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Another old friend. And he is in a meeting right now, in another meeting, so he is going to join a bit later. Now, there are two or three interesting things, very common thing, which we have found in both these papers and in all other papers, all other documents related to this work. First, the role of the government is to facilitate with optimal number of regulations, neither over regulation nor under regulation. And there are numerous examples of market failures as a result of non-optimal regulations. The business of the government is not to do business itself. It is for the private sector to do. And that is how we can create wealth. Wealth for myself, wealth for others in the society. And unless we create wealth, how are we going to distribute them? for those who need support. And in order to do so, what we always have to keep in mind whenever we come out any regulation, any policy, how it is going to impact the last person in the queue. How can I make it in a manner that it's going to have a positive impact on the lives and livelihoods of the last person standing in the queue. So with that note, let me now, and without any further ado, let me first request Mr. Nath to tell us the essence about his paper, the main message or messages, one or two, that he wanted to convey while writing this paper, and why he thinks that border huts can be leveraged, can be explored for a better seed exchange in official manner between India and Bangladesh. You all know that there is a huge informal trade between these two countries on seeds, including the fact, I have no hesitation in saying this, that every day, in fact, we are consuming a number of products which are produced with GM seeds. Brinjal is one example, which is primarily coming from Bangladesh in an informal manner. So how border huts can be leveraged for a better seed exchange regime between India and Bangladesh? That is something which we request Mr. Nath to talk about. So Sudhirda, I would request you to focus on this and to tell us your story in about 10 to 12 minutes. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, the Bipulji. Can I present my paper? I think I cannot share the screen.
Yes, I'm just doing it. Just a minute.
I cannot share my screen. Can you give me permission?
No.
Okay, they will try. Sudhirda, for now, will try.
Please let me chance to share my presentation.
So Sasato, can you do it?
Yes.
No.
I'm just doing.
It's not. Still, it is not okay.
I'm just doing.
No. Sasato is doing it.
Sudhirda, wait.
Okay.
I think we are having some.
You can do it now.
Issue.
Mr. Nath, you can share it now.
Okay.
Sudhirda, you can do it now. Yeah. Other thing has come.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Go ahead,
okay.
please.
Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's discussion on border hut, especially on agriculture sector. Respected guests, and I would like to say it is an excellent topics, as this is completely related with the livelihood development of the border hut peoples. So I welcome the Unnayan Shaunna as well as cards. You see that the border hut, if you look in border hut, basically it started year 2010. The objective was to reduce the cross-border trade, increase people connectivity, alternate livelihood development of the border hut peoples. Over the period of time, that means year 2000, although the border hat started year 2011, but the over the period of time, that means 12 and 15, another 3 border hat has already been started. Now the importance of border, why border hat has important? Basically, you see that from the very beginning, as we know that there is a illegal trade is there. To reduce the illegal trade, that is why the border hat was importance for the border hat peoples. According to the study of the cards, it is completely find out that it is positively impact of livelihood development of the border people and reduce the informal trade. Border are basically located in the very remote area, as because this is the remote area, so people has very few access to get the agricultural technological support from the urban side as well as the district level. So that is the very important for the border people. Still there is a, it is found that in according to the cards report, our report, that there is a huge scope and huge opportunity to to develop to use the border as a knowledge sharing on agricultural practice through the border hat, as because the remote area people, they have no access to get the technology. So this border hat can be a important area, an important location where people can get agricultural inputs as well as agricultural technology. If we look in that the Bharat, this is not a new for the India Bangladesh. Across the world, there is a border hut is also is there. Through border hut, the people connectivity is already been established, reduce informal trade, and the other alternate scope has been already been opened. As for example, the people, they came in here and they diversified their livelihood activities, and there are alternate opportunity has been already been there are others scope has already been started to the to rural people, create earning opportunity for the livelihood development of that area. And there is another, this is the platform not only for the man, it is also the woman, they get access to sell and to purchase the product, as because this is very remote area. I think according to the report, it is clear that the almost around the per, according to the cost report, is found that the 600 per heart, 600 US dollars, 600,000 US dollar per heart, the sale is almost round. And if you look in the bilateral trade, India Bangladesh over the 3 years, that means over the 7 years, it is 3 times increase. If you look in year 2017-18, the bilateral trade was 9.5 million, but in year 2002 and year 2008 and 2009, it was in 3.22 billion. Now over the 7 years, it is around 3 times increased. If you look in that the border hut, there is some limitation. That means the purchasing capacity for a people is 200 US dollar, and every week there is a one hut. So if we can increase the purchasing capacity of the people, as well as the heart will be the two heart in a week, then it may be increased around the border heart business, the border heart trade will be the almost around the 8 billion. And this is the very close to the formal trade, bilateral trade. Border became a center for the people connection, where friends, relatives, they can get access to without any immigration. As because if we look in year 2000, before 1947, it was in one country. After that, there are some the people, the people, they have their on their relatives, some are in India, some are in Bangladesh, so there is a very limited scope to meet each other. So this is the one of the platform where the relatives can get access to meet each other without any formalities. So this is the one of the very important things. And still there is a informal trade is happening. That means the seed is trading informally, as because we are very close to, as because I am involved with the seed agriculture business. So still we found that the number of seed is trading, informal trading is there. So the rice seed is trading, vegetable seed trading. So this is the one of the platform where informal trade can be reduced. So the border hut is very important for that location. um, uh, the it is easier to, after you see that the opportunity is that the technology, you see that the agriculture is a technology, it's not a seed. Every seed they have their technology. So if it will be trade, but every seed has a technology. So without technology it is very difficult to get the expected result. So border hut can be one of the platform where the the technology can be accessed and idea can be accessed among the farmers. You see that the each and every crop they have their special production technology, they have their fertilizer use, and they have their irrigation technologies there. So if it is trading, informal trading is there, so they will not get any technology from the informal system. But if there is a formal system, that means the border, they are the people, they came here to get the seeds, and along with there is a scope to get the technology. And without technology you are not getting any more expected product from that seed. So it can be one of the platform where farmers can get access to get the technology and get the idea sharing how they can cultivate that product. You see that the without promote of the enterprise, you see that this border hut can also promote the entrepreneurs, as because this is the entrepreneurs, they will come here, and then through these entrepreneurs the distribution system can be established, and there is a link will be established among the farmers, among the traders, among the distributors. So that border hut can be one of the platform where the agriculture exchange technology is can be act as a income generation as well as livelihood development of the farmers. And the private sector can be, once the border hut will be established very well, then the private sector will be involved in that sector, and the private entrepreneurs will come and then they will sell their product through this. Once the private sector will be involved in that process, then farmers can get easily more technology as well as the more quality seed from that private sector. So this is the platform where border hut, as because the border is the very remote area, and border hut the remote area people, their source of income is the agriculture. So this border hut can be a one of the platform where they are they can get earning opportunity as well as they can share their excess product. You see that, as because the border art is far away from the district as well as the urban area, so they have their less scope to sell their excess product. So this border hut can be one of the opportunity to sell their product and they can earn more money. So this is the important for the border hut people. And as well as the regulation, you see that the informal, once it will be the informal trade, there is a regulation. That means the lot of unqualified and the unproductive seed may be trading, and there is a scope. So once there is a formal trading system, that means the border system, the farmers can ensure the quality seed, as because the private sector once involved, then they can give assurance to the farmers to get the more quality seed. So without quality seed, you cannot expect the good production. So this is the one of the platform where remote area people, especially the border hut peoples, can get good quality of seed as well as the good inputs, fertilizer, pesticide, and good technology, and then they can ensure the production. And this border hut can be a idea generation as well as knowledge sharing center, because once the people will come, then the seed not only for India for to Bangladesh, and Bangladesh to India, but both countries seed are exchanging. You see that the number of seed that are demand in Bangladesh, Indian seed are demanded in Bangladesh. And the same way, there are a number of variety and seed that are demanded in India. So that seed technology is every seed has because the every seed has a one technology. So this platform we can use for the income generation as well as livelihood development of the border people. So this is the one of the platform where remote area people can exchange their idea for increase their income as well as increase their production.
Sudhir, how many more slides you have?
Pardon?
How many more slides you have?
I have. This is the last slide.
Okay.
So lastly, I would like to say Borderhat can provide the platform where farmers from both countries can exchange their technology, idea, knowledge, and their surplus product for agriculture and horticulture product. So I would like to say this is that the Borderhat can be a platform where farmers can exchange their product, technology, and get technological support as well as the ensure the quality of the product. So this is the way I think the Borderhat through this Borderhat the livelihood development can be ensured of the remote area of the people. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudhir, for your presentation with all these thoughts. Before I come to Sriradha, just one point which I would like to flag, that this is something which we need to explore further, that how border acts can be used uh, as centers for exchange of knowledge, ideas. This is something which I think it is yet to happen, uh, including for generating awareness on contemporary issues. It could be health related, it could be education, on education, and several other things. So, this is how we should look at it, uh, as not just as a place to do trade, but also to uh, explore this place as knowledge hubs, knowledge centers for exchanging ideas. So on that note, let me now request Sriradha Datta from Vivekananda International Foundation. She has been working on India Bangladesh issues, on also on our other neighboring, many other neighboring countries, India, Nepal, India, Sri Lanka, and she has also done extensive work on development issues in the northeast of India. So Sriradha, my point to you, not as a question but more as a thought, that how can we upscale Borderhat, not just in terms of numbers, but also in terms of its operations. So over to you, Sriradha, in about 7 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, people. As always, the cuts discussions have always been, provided further inputs to my understanding the border regions. Am I audible or is there a connection problem?
Yes.
No, you are.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay,
you.
so let me straight away jump to what you're saying. As you know, in fact, this is not to kind of publicize, but my latest work, which is on the Act East policy and the Northeast India, is actually looking at the border development zones much more closely. Because I'm completely convinced of the fact that these larger infrastructure projects that we are discussing in the Northeast, which is going to connect the region, the mainland India with our Southeast Asian economies, the Northeast is supposed to be a gateway to that. But the argument in this book is that Northeast will not be able to contribute to the economy in a large way because of the demand supply issues. But on the other hand, in terms of developing the borderlands, there is a far greater role to play, and which is actually easily tangible. The takeaways are low hanging fruit. So let me start. I think I've discussed this at a very vague level once, but let me just get into the detailing. So we were just talking about the border heart. We've seen how the border heart experience has taught us what are the things we could increase in terms of the value, in terms of the products, in terms of the demand supply, and in terms of the periodicity. So those are all the experiences which we hopefully will take forward to the new border huts that we've agreed on. So I'm beginning from there, that these are the things that is already been understood. Several of your studies of cuts have actually identified many of these problems at the present functioning level, and how one can upscale that. And I think this particular paper by Shudhita was absolutely brilliant as to what are the products which can add greater value. So my here core argument is that all these border huts have a very basic infrastructure already present because of the security parameters. The security apparatus gives you a very basic building that doesn't give you much in all the border huts that I've been to. I'm saying that if we can do a survey, because the level of development on both sides of the border, the people on both sides of the border do not, I mean, either have or not have access to similar services in terms of education, public health, social cultural activities. I mean, we all realize the whole emotive content of what the border actually means to people. I mean, apart from the trade and the fiscal and the legal regime, that emotional content of getting people to connect through the borders has been a huge, tremendous effect for both the neighbors. So, in that context, we've also realized that how, for both mainland India and for Bangladesh, many of the services which are available to the urban children are simply not available. And in the pandemic, we have seen that it is through very limited technology support we'll be able to get those kind of services that are available to the urban children to the children on the borderland who are deprived of even basic education criteria. So if we can organize in terms of villages, what are the children of age groups from 6 to 12 and 12 to 16, and get them into, and I think all of us have been arguing here that the children are of the global world. We are going to discuss in terms of what is a language method, and that's the advantage that Bangladesh has with India on this, whether it's Bengali or whether it's they would want English, because both the languages are prevalent in both the countries. We could use that as a medium. We have very, I mean, the kind of education skills that India could offer, and with the, as I'm saying, the technology is not all that high level. You can easily apply that. That we'll be able to offer not only to our children in the northeast who are deprived of the education, as well as to the children of the Bangladesh. So it's a very small survey that we need to identify the villages and who are the children who would be happy to partake. Not only that, in terms of health services, I've been to many of these health services on our side of the border, and I've seen that it's really a kind of a roaming hospital that takes place. Proper services are on a daily basis is not available. Why are we not able to use the same structure? So basically, the whole border development community should involve not only education but health services, and more importantly, livelihood programs. Livelihood programs, in fact, we were just discussing before the formal thing that on both sides, pandemic of course has given a hit to both the all the economies across the world. But even now, in a very small limited way, I think it's possible that we'll be able to increase the livelihood programs, ensure that some kind of vocational training, which is what we need. I think that whole idea of higher education, which is just in terms of degrees, are not required anymore. I think we are moving into a world where vocational services are much more applicable to people, especially in the borderland, when we do not have the expertise. We've often seen how for a very small particular services, people have had to wait for weeks for somebody from the mainland to come. So if we can actually use, and I'm saying that initially we do not need to have any heavy duty funding issue for this, because whatever the basic structure which is already available with the security forces, because all of them have a certain formal structure in place. If that space can be made available to both the sides, I think, I think a limited survey on both sides can actually tell you that who can offer what services. And given the fact that we are already working on very there's a whole kind of integration that's taking place at various levels, it's possible that the border development project can go much beyond border huts. And I don't know if I have time, but I could elaborate a little bit. But I'm saying that border community development is something which will go in sync with border huts. We should not make a distinction between them, but actually let one kind of be a force multiplier for the other. so that one feeds into the other. Border heart should not be an isolated, experience. Border heart should feed into the larger needs of the border development community. This is what my core argument here in the book is, and of course, one can get into more detailing as and required.
Thank you, Sriradha. That we should not look at border huts in isolation. It should not just be a place to do some transactions. We should look at it in the larger context of border area development. So I would come to on this point, I would now come to Najneen with a thought that look, here is a geography. I'm talking about Northeast India and adjoining Bangladesh, which is right at the center of a geographic thought which is coming to my mind, and also at the Bay of Bengal region as a whole. So if we look at Northeast India, on one side we have Myanmar, on the other side we have Nepal, Bhutan, rest of India. In the northern side we have Tibet, and also the Yunnan province of China. And as we go south, we have the Bay of Bengal, and then going further down, we have the Indian Ocean. Northeast India, if I look at the construct, is right at the center. So Najni, how then, taking forward what Sriradha has just said, what are the things that we need to do in order to transform this initiative and upscale this initiative just from trade transaction point of view to border area development? So let us hear from you about this thought, and what are the thoughts in Bangladesh in this regard, more importantly. So on that note, about 7 to 8 minutes, Najni,
yes.
over to you.
Thank you, Bipulda, and thanks to Haats An and Shamunnoy for inviting me to share some of my views. Can you hear me? Because I'm using a very old headphone.
Yes.
Remained in my office. This is the first time actually I'm taking part in a webinar from my office. Usually I do it from home, so I have better setup at home. Anyway, so I think what Sriradha said, my opinion goes from there, that Border Hut is kind of an entity that shows, it's like a morning shows the day. So this shows that what is possible, how cooperation is possible. And the presentation on seed and agricultural product also elaborates on some of the possibilities. But Bipulda, what you said, this whole idea of connectivity, infrastructure development, this goes with what Sriradha said regarding the border area development. So from border hub to border area development, we surely have to move towards that. But at the same time, we really have to look into what were the shortcomings or challenges even within the border hut, I would say the border hut example or border hut experiences, because it was not all that was or all that is positive. There are challenges and there are scopes for even better utilization of the border hut. So if we can understand the limitations even at the smaller scales of border hut, then when we are thinking of this border area development, we can very well successfully overcome those challenges. For example, the border huts that I visited with the programs, people from carts, and what I noticed that even there, when people are coming with their products and they are selling it, but it's not, they have not really made it like a kind of value chain of the products, that they consider this to be a market, then new ideas, and then they go back. Or they can even have kind of a how to say, just like joint ventures, like you have some technology in one side and then you imitate that technology in the other side, and then you share your products, or even some kind of specialization possibility. I think that is still missing in the border hut areas. So when we are thinking of this infrastructure development, the whole border area development project, we have to bear in mind that whether we are giving stress to every possibilities. For example, in the border hut, if we could have more connections in terms of like online order process. So in two sides, you have different cell phone system. So you have different infrastructure. Even if Bangladeshi cell phones and others can be heard from the other side of the border, but officially it's not that, and in that area Wi-Fi and others are not that developed. So if we could have that kind of a system, then even if you don't have a border hut more than one day a week, maybe 2 days should be better, but still you can have connection for next border hut. What you say from the Indian side, some people want to buy some products from the Bangladesh side and they can place order online. This can even enhance the trading possibility. Even they can have better sharing of knowledge, as you were saying. So I think the kind of an infrastructure development for common ICT connection, ICT platform will be very much welcome. And as Sri Radha was saying, that if we can have some kind of skill training around that, this will be greatly beneficial, not only for trade, but also for developing other, enhancing other social activities. Even in some social activities, if there is a crisis in one side, some environmental problems or some social issues, or if some people are affected by floods or something, need relief, need cooperation, then it will be very good to have like youth group in both sides, the youth groups, volunteer groups who can help each other. So all I'm trying to say, as you were saying, from the broader infrastructure perspective, we are motor vehicle agreements and other agreements that we are talking about. We also have to think of this whole possibility of utilizing every opportunity. And we can very well start with utilizing the full potential of the border huts. And in that connection, I think it's very important that we develop this ICT infrastructure to help the entrepreneurs and others in both sides. And I would like to stress on this, because this will also help lots of women entrepreneurs. Maybe they cannot directly join the border huts, but they can very well send their products through someone else who has access to the shops who can sell, who are selling in the border hut. So I think those kind of chain effects. So I may not be able to go to the border hut to sell my product, but I can very well give that to some intermediary who can take my products to my client, to my consumer, whom I connected online. So I think this kind of platform, if we think of, we already utilize the infrastructure in a better way. So I think because I think in terms of cooperation, border hut shows us what is possible. And if we can utilize this, the potentials of border hut fully, and utilize this experience for this whole border area development, I think that can create a big thing for these two countries. Because the borders that we are talking about, in most cases the borders are kind of remote part of the country, where you have less in many cases you don't really have good infrastructure or others. So when we will be developing, have this initiative of border development, that will obviously generate more opportunities, not only for business but for many other types of cooperation. And examples should start from the border hut experience. And I think we have to think of the women entrepreneurship that is possible to develop through this border development operation, and that will require special attention to women in terms of skill training, in terms of creating chain effect for supply chain for them, the new marketing strategies. I think if we can utilize the examples of border hut properly, then as you said, people, the broader infrastructure that we are talking about, connecting all this whole region, we can move towards that. That will be a stepping stone for that kind of cooperation. I think I stop here.
Thank you, Najreen, for bringing infrastructure into this discussion. And the very important point that you have made, that with a bit of innovation, it's not just we have to create a huge infrastructure. In fact, with a bit of innovation, if we can transform, or not transform, if we can also utilize this initiative as some kind of a platform to also explore the two-sidedness of this initiative, and how then it will be easier for many others, but better use of this platform. So I will think about it, all these ideas, and of course we are going to have more interactions with you to see to it that how these ideas can reach the eyes and ears of our policymakers and politicians, particularly in border areas, politicians in those border areas. So on that note, let me now come to Dr. Bhattacharjee. And I have a very specific questions for you, that after hearing Mr. Nath, then Sriradha and Najreen, so how do you see all these things? I'll come to Mr. Roy later, and I'll ask a couple of specific questions, since he is a former retired government official. But before that, Dr. Bhattacharjee, how do you see, after hearing all this and after reading all these papers, including taking part in our project on border huts, that what are the things which need to be done in order for the Barak Valley, that particular region of Assam, to get advantage of this initiative, not just the border huts, but also the larger context of border area development? So over to you in about 7 minutes, 8 minutes.
Thank you, Haats International, and thank you, Mr. Chatterjee, for giving me the opportunity to share my thought on the issue. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. So it's always a great opportunity to be part of your Haats International discussion. It's always a great, I would say, learning process. And the research, especially, I have gone through the research, both of the report and the papers, and these are really very fascinating one. And I really like the paper on the seeds, particularly. And I, of course, I'm working here in Delhi for quite some time, but I spent larger part of my time in Barak Valley, and that too in a border town. So when people talk about or discuss how India and Bangladesh should create trade or border area development, especially when it comes to trade, it always sounds what we are really exploring. I think it is more, the title should be reconnecting what it was, because already it was a whole economic, a composite economic area, which due to some historical reason, we got disconnected. So the whole effort here is to how reconnecting the lost communities or the separated communities. So it is, but we have to accept the realities of the time. So that way, I think border hut is a very good beginning. It is just a beginning for a larger goal that we are all talking about. is to create a proper border community, because unfortunately, because of the history, we are separated, and the region which at one point of time, Barak Valley, which was a major connecting point for connecting to other states, became the remotest part of India, and now we are the border zone. So overall, I think all the efforts and the initiatives that are going on in the overall larger context of India-Bangladesh relationship, Barak Valley plays a major role, both when it comes to inland waterways, even the agricultural products. And here I think it's very important, because when we are talking about border heart, we should think into the larger concept of creating a border area development, because both the sides have, because in Bangladesh, in overall Tago's language, we have to create debe or nebe. So we have to work together, and our one side strength and the other side weakness should be combined, so that we should take our strength together to create that composite whole that we are trying to recreate or reconnect. So there, Barak Valley plays an important role. I think especially agriculture is an important area, because for a long time, and when it comes to creating a value chain, I think it's very, very important. Also, it's not only agriculture. I would try to look into the larger products which already been spoken about, even even the small industries like Barak Valley right now is flooded with Bangladeshi plastic products. So these are, so the industrial units also, I strongly feel that all the border area where there is small cottage industry or industrial units, they should also be included in the overall context of border heart, and it is just a beginning. And we also, and I strongly believe health have to be there, and so health is a very important area we have to focus on. Education is there. So for Barak Valley, I think the problem of Barak Valley or Barak Valley benefiting cannot be seen separately from how we are trying to create the overall concept of border zone in the India-Bangladesh relationship. And certainly it plays a major connecting point for both certain states of Northeast. So that way it has a role, but it is not separate. So if the border, I strongly believe, and my experiences has been that if the border area, we can focus and really create that border zone area development, the Barak Valley will also grow, because the future is not different. There has, in fact, I would say, unfortunately, the overall concept, the borders, border hearts are there in different parts, but not one in Barak Valley. So I think we have to create a few border huts in Barak Valley also, but it should not be only for, it should also create the border hut. It should also come more as an economic zone. That should be the main focus, because ultimately border hut should go further, and we should create a concept of economic zone, and only then we can think of taking it forward. So it should be in the larger. So Barak Valley is cannot be seen developed separately. It should be in the larger context, and also I strongly believe connecting the other issues are important. And that way border hut is just a beginning. We have to strengthen, and I hope with research and more discussions we can have a better, it's just a beginning of a longer march for creating a larger border community. I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Now, before I come to Mr. Roy, and with one or two very specific points, of course, I would welcome him to speak on various other points which have been elaborated by our speakers today. Let me request Mr. to tell us about his ideas, his thought, which he has elaborated in his paper, and how the very specific thought or request is that how he sees small entrepreneurs, medium, micro, small, medium entrepreneurs, they can work together, take advantage of border huts in particular, and going forward, border economic zones. What kind of uh, thinking that we should have in place in order to realize uh, uh, such a possibility?
Thank you,
What
Bipul.
you
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure that I can join this interaction. Let me begin by taking a note from what Dr. Bhattacharya said. You see, the Northeast and Bangladesh particularly, today we see them as separate entities. Northeast is a part of India, Bangladesh is a different country. But historically, if we go back just 60, 70 years, this was part of a broader economic zone. The northeast of India, Bangladesh, then it was East Bengal, Myanmar, Burma. They all formed part of a geographic economic continuum under the British, and trade used to flow seamlessly. In fact, the entire economic development process in Assam started through the rivers, starting from the tea plantations to the oil refineries. It all started through the rivers which flow through Bangladesh. Even going to the grassroots, if you look at, for example, Meghalaya, one of the project areas where Haats has worked is in Kalaichar. I think if you look at Meghalaya in the Garo Hills, the farmers today do not find market for their produces. There used to be a ready market for their produces across the border that is there today. All that came to a standstill, unfortunately, in 1947, more precisely in 1965 during the war. 1971 onwards, there have been sporadic efforts to reconnect, re-establish those connections and get the economy going. But they have been sporadic, so to say. And the efforts have not given us the kind of returns that we would have looked for. And perhaps more needs to be done. The border huts, coming to the border huts, I think as far as the basic objective of the border huts is concerned, that of providing some sort of livelihood improvement for the people living in the border areas, helping them connect with each other, helping families connect, people-to-people connectivity. That is a stated objective of the border huts. I think the border huts have been greatly successful. But at the same time, I feel the border huts, their potential is totally underutilized. The border huts can go much beyond what we are looking at today. 1 day a week, $200 head load. I think this is just a fraction of what the border huts could achieve. I think the ultimate objective should be to bring about an economic integration which is as close as possible to what was there before 1947. Politics, of course, has brought some divide, which we cannot wish away. But from the economic standpoint, I think it would benefit both countries if there was integration. And the border huts can play a very critical role, very important role there. The border huts have been successful in initiating dialogue, at least among the border people, in initiating some amount of trade. But I think we need to go beyond that. For example, some of the ideas that I have shared in my paper, the border huts could also serve as a point of contact for businesses from both countries. A businessman sitting in Sylhet or someplace in Sylhet need not travel to Delhi or Kolkata or someplace to connect with his counterparts there, who may be from the Northeast. Why can't we have facilities in the border hut itself where these interactions could take place? Number one. Number two, we probably need to improve the infrastructure in the border hut to achieve this. Then again, within the limited scope of the border huts that has been thought of, I think we can still do a little more. In the sense, the border huts are today limited to 1 day a week with certain restrictions on the amount of trade that a trader can conduct and things like that. Some relaxation in that, allowing people to trade more, make the list of items that is traded there, that could be broadened. There might be worries that this will come into conflict with the normal trade, the LC trade that takes place between the two countries. But I think at this point in time, such worries would be unfounded, primarily because the volume of trade taking place in the border Haats is still very limited. And if the volume of trade increases to an extent that it impacts the regular trade, we could then, at that point in time, look at working out a formula, a method by which customs duties, etc., could be collected at the Haat itself. There are numerous examples of this happening. For example, the border between Myanmar and China. They have a very good system where taxes are collected, where duties are collected, and the trade happens almost like a border Haat. So I think that is the short-term goal which we should target, which we should work towards both the countries. In the longer term, I think the border Haats could form the nucleus around which border development zones could evolve. There are different kinds of border development zones across the world. In some cases, border development zones are two different zones in two countries which are connected via a corridor, or it could be an integrated zone where trade happens freely. And that also brings me to another people's question about how SMEs can work and benefit from this entire exercise. You see, the border Haats could play a very important role in developing the existing value chains and in developing new value chains. One example which we found in the study that Haats conducted is that of betel nut. Betel nut, traditionally, betel nut trade between the two regions has always been there for centuries. It came to a standstill, and recently, because of the border Haat at Kalaichar, it has taken off again. So betel nut from this side goes there, it is processed, then again it comes back through a different border Haat. So I think there are many other value chains, starting from agriculture to many other areas. For example, in plastic, Bangladesh has a thriving plastic industry. It sources its raw material from places like Saudi Arabia, from Malaysia, and from Gujarat in India. Whereas we have a gas cracker project in Assam, which produces excellent quality raw material for the plastic industry. And there is no trade happening between Bangladesh and Northeast in this particular item. So similarly, there are many other value chains which could involve the bigger industries as well as the smaller industries. And particularly for agrarian producers, for example. The border Haats could also double up as processing zones, where the produce from one side comes in, some amount of processing takes place on this side of the border, it's sent to the other side. For example, in food processing, Bangladesh has a thriving industry, at least compared to the Northeast. I think Bangladesh has a bigger industry in food processing, and it has huge domestic demand for processed and unprocessed food. The horticultural producers from the Northeast, from Meghalaya, from Assam, from Tripura, from Mizoram, they could come to the border Haats. They could be, some amount of semi-processing could be done on this side of the border, some amount of value addition, and then it could go over to the other side of the border where the final processing takes place. This way, if we have the processing zones close by across the border, we could benefit from each other's expertise. We could benefit from skilled manpower who could actually, we should look at a future where skilled manpower from India should be able to go and work in Bangladesh, come back and sleep at his home. Similarly, from Bangladesh, people should be able to come to the Indian side and work in the processing zones and go back. And that's where the SMEs will play a very critical role. We cannot expect the big companies of either country to go and set up shop at the border to begin with. That is where the SMEs would come in. SMEs of both sides could come in and join hands and set up processing facilities, warehousing facilities, logistics facilities, etc. But I think the overall objective should be to bring about a kind of economic integration where this kind of flow of talent flow of raw material flow of processed products becomes easy and seamless without getting tangled into bureaucratic red tape, etc. I think that is more or less the point that I've tried to make in my paper. If there are any other questions and queries, I'd love to take them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thank you. I'm glad for border initiative in Assam. We have 2 border huts in Tripura, 2 in Meghalaya. There are a few locations in Assam which have been identified, and that is this. Sorry, there's some internet issue. And this is something which we need to explore further in consultation with you. And I'm sure that given the dynamic nature, Himantada would take it up at the appropriate places. So, but the most important thing is the support which we have got from you, Mr. about this initiative. I'm saying this with a bit of annoyance, I would say, if I may use this word. I'll tell you why. It's because whenever we talk about border huts in New Delhi, with business associations in particular, we don't get much attention. I mean, we can meet any minister at any point of time, just a phone call away. Why should we be bothered about some remote market in some remote, some small markets in some remote areas of our country? So we have to keep that in mind. And this is something which we should do joint advocacy at the state level as well as at the central level. So that brings me to my final question, among other things, of course, to Mr. Roy. Being a senior bureaucrat, now retired, additional secretary in the Bangladesh Commerce Ministry, why you think that what needs to be done in order for capitals to listen to grassroots? That is still very much missing, though things have improved over time, thanks to digital means. And thanks to, I have no hesitation in saying this, thanks to politicians like Himanta Biswa Sharma, who is the finance minister of Assam, and many other finance and health minister, among other things. So being on one part of the story, the policy making, the bureaucracy part, what do you think that we need to do in order to get more attention to the eyes and ears of the bureaucrats in the capitals? So thank you, and over to you, Mr. Roy.
Thank you very much, Vipulda, and thanks very much to Haats giving me the scope to work with you. I am audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible in about 10-12 minutes.
Yes, yes. And also thanks for the very good 2 papers, actually, Mr. Nath and Mr. Chakraborty. And also I will cite Ms. Bhattacharya's lecture he delivered here. And also Mr. Biswajit is saying that about the economy of the area. Earlier it was an integrated economy all over the area, and free movement of factors, including capitals, products, and raw materials are moving. But now in the 1947s and later, state boundaries are created, so economies are being disturbed. But now we are trying again to go back to that actually situation of integrated economy by the name of connectivity. And I think among other purposes, border art is also one tool for that connectivity. While Border Hut was first established, there was what was in mind of the policymakers. That is, they are the segregated areas. There is actually crisis of essential products. So if we can actually provide some sorts of arrangement between the two sides of the border, that the people are relieved of this crisis, the scarcity of their goods, essential commodities, etc. That was basically a primary point. And secondary was also to people connection. These two issues actually forced the governments to come closer and to form this type of arrangements. And before going to the main thing, let me give you the present situation. Now, in total, 16 border huts, 4 are in actually running, and out of more 6, construction 3 is completed and they are awaiting inauguration. And the next 6 actually going joint inspections. So at this very moment, we have 16 border huts in actually discussion. Now, if how you can draw the attention of the border hut, government, national governments that actually they facilitated I think that was your question, that how the actually attention of the governments at larger perspective can be drawn to the border huts. It is not like that, as you have said, someone in Delhi or Dhaka saying, oh, we will do it. It's a very short issue. But if we can actually, after this development at this stage, if we can give some sort of picture to those who are making the policy that yes, progress is on this line and they are again progressing. So we have to actually make them visualize that yes, the situation of border areas, the supply and demand of the border pupils, they are happy, and some transactions are also going on. So we have to first probe it by any means to bring the attention. Otherwise, actually, no one says. If someone remains silent, no one says what is going on in the remote areas. But the developments so far have taken place. I will now actually speak something that whether it can give more actually momentum to the process. The first, there was a study by Arnabda, and now today's 2 studies. This all actually coming to a single point. That was my actually interest area. In Arnabda's study some months back, there were found some new actually professions, products. The buying capacity, purchasing capacity of the dwellers of the border are increased. They have now choices for their products. But how to actually meet up this need? Only we will be eyeing at the mainstream or mainland, then how the border areas will be developed. When now Mr. Bhattacharya is saying about value chain, and Mr. Nath is saying about a particular sector where there are scopes, and Arnabda said that yes, there are demands of products. So whether we can actually create such opportunities by improving the movement of factors from both the sides, that there are conversion houses, conversion processes running in the very border areas. As you have already said, that border huts must not be the point of only transaction, good transaction points. Let we think it, let we close our eyes and see that yes, these areas are developed as a production house also. In international economics, actually terms of trade, gain from benefits, gains from production and gains from consumption, these are also important. So if we can arrange such things, that we will be providing support being identifying the new products that are demanded there, either side of the border, provide some skills to the peoples of that area, including the women, and also provide facilitate so that they can get into access to credits by actually banding these three, the skills, identification of products, and credits, access to credits, resources. This will give some actually boost to the areas of the border where the people themselves from their own houses can meet the demand requirement of the peoples. I think these sorts of arrangement will basically fulfill the actually longer desires of our people, that there will be some actually export processing zones, industries, houses larger, etc. Yes, this is possible, but from where we can start now? From the very beginning of this stage, whether we can eye to that, then we will have again having the dependency on the centers. And by this arrangement also, women's participation from the behind, there was such a says that they cannot actually participate directly. Okay, but if we can start small conversion processes, including the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in the areas, then definitely this will get a boost. And I think that if we can show it, definitely the policymakers, the governments, the political leaders, the society leaders, they will all actually see that yes, something can be achieved from this area and we need to much support more. That's basically, I think that we should. And one thing is more that, what is the second step of border hut? Someone was saying, yes, in between Bangladesh and Myanmar, there is a traditional trade, almost traditional. It is called border trade. It is not opening LC, but goods are coming to the border in a customized way. Customs people are basically charging the duties, etc., and clearing the goods. So we can, as a secondary stage after border hut, if trades are increased, then definitely there will be some actually negative attitudes from the mainstream, say customs in every country, they don't like. So if we can actually promote the border hut areas business to such as border trade situation, then definitely we will achieve something. And I am sure, and I am very much glad that the ways that Mr. Bhattacharya in citing the value chain effect and Mr. Nat about a particular sector of agriculture, I think they both have showed some points why in which I am also thinking. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Thank you for supporting all these ideas, including elaborating on some of them. So at the end, I mean, we have almost come to an end of this session. Unless there are a number of any major issues, I would like to say a couple of things. First, that it is evidently clear that we have to have champions for this initiative, for border huts and border area development, border economic zones and things like that in our capitals, in Dhaka, in New Delhi, and in case of India, in our state capitals, in Kolkata, in Guwahati, in Agartala, in Shillong. I think that is still missing. So this is something going forward, this is something which we should ponder over and see to it that we do it. And of course, we are going to discuss these ideas. We are going to come out with an idea note and discuss this idea with persons like Mr. Roy, Mr. Jeet, and others to refine the idea that it's not just what is to be done and why it is to be done. What is to be done is very clear. Why it is to be done is also fairly clear. There is more about how it is to be done, and that is the know-how. That is which we need to think about, ponder over to make it happen. So some kind of quote unquote ambassadors at large in these capitals for border area development, with Border Heart as one of the major initiatives in the scheme of things. Secondly, during the course of this work over the last 2 years, we have gathered a number of ideas and we have captured most of them, if not all, in the report which we are preparing, including we have looked into the COVID-19 impact. So that report is more or less done. Now we have to distill a bit of it to see to it that we can now take these ideas forward in a much more concrete manner, with the ultimate objective of having more and more economic integration between these two countries. So that should be our ultimate. And most of these ideas, if not all of them, talks about enhancing economic integration. And of course, through that, people-to-people connectivity for peace, security, stability, and prosperity, not just through generation of new income generation opportunities. So that is something which also we are going to do. So we are all in favor of more and more economic integration by exploring value chains, by other means, by exploring services, tourism, including medical tourism, education, other service sectors. And of course, without any further change in the political map. So this is something which we are going to do. So this phase of the project is coming to an end. We are going to have another webinar where we are going to place these ideas which we have gathered, the major ideas which we have gathered over this period of time, and also to discuss how can we engage in a better manner with another very important stakeholder group, which is the media, both local media as well as national media. So on that note, unless any of you, including particularly the speakers, you have anything more to add, important point to add, I would request my colleague Arnab Ganguly to propose a vote of thanks, including if he wants to add any of his ideas, that would be most welcome. So over to you.
If I may just come in for a second.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just one limited point. You mentioned about how to get attention of the capitals in this. To my mind, I think it is time we start painting the larger picture. While the actual work may be happening on a smaller scale in the border hearts and all, but I think we should start thinking about how to paint the larger picture. Because unless we show them a larger picture, we are not going to get their attention.
Yeah, I get your point.
Very small issue. Actually, border hut is run by the civil administration, but BSF from the Indian side and BGP from Bangladesh side, these are the very two actually important, influential actually players of this. Now, whether we can by some mean actually include these two groups, formal or informal, any way, so that a better understanding they gets about these border huts, policies, impacts, the societies, how it will develop, rather than only thinking from the security perspective. So I will request if there is any way. Actually, I have seen in my BGB, there were serious actual oppositions, but after discussion, they were very cool. They then understand that yes, there is requirement of this site in the border areas. So I will request, if possible, in any forum, to take these two teams on with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Roy. It is possible. In fact, in locations where border huts are there, we have found that both the Indian BSF and the Bangladesh Border Guard, they are quite happy about this initiative because the crime rate has come down. The places are more secure. Their workload has come down. So we need to, as Vishwajit has rightly pointed out, we need to look at the big picture and see how we can fit this story into that big picture. So on that note, let me now request Arnav for his final thoughts, including vote of thanks.
Thanks, Bipul. Like to take the opportunity to thank everyone for participating in the discussion. And on behalf of Haats, we would like to thank Mr. Sudhir Chandra Nath, Head of Business, ACI Limited, Dhaka, and Mr. Vishwajit Chakraborty, Director, FICCI Northeast Advisory Council, Guwahati, Assam, for developing these excellent papers based on which the discussion has taken place. I'd also like to thank the panelists who had given their so much insightful comments and their observations on the way forward for the border huts. So these inputs are extremely important for us, to which we will be incorporating in the way forward as we go along with this project. Especially, I would also like to thank Bipul for his time and for excellent way of moderating this entire discussion and giving his insightful comments also. I would just like to add one small thing, just like to flag rather, one small thing here. In Kuch Bihar, when we were working on the informal trade between India and Bangladesh, we have come across certain things. For example, the BD 28 and 29, that was mostly Bangladesh seed. Those are being used in India in the Boro season, and similarly the almond variety for Indian, which is actually going to Bangladesh informally and being cultivated there. So these kind of these movements are there, informal movements are there, but there is a problem also. The problem is, if suppose a farmer who is cultivating the Bangladeshi breed comes, if some pest attack happens, the person is basically becomes clueless, because the Indian authorities, or maybe in Bangladesh, similar from the Bangladesh authorities, they would refuse any help in that regard. The only thing that they would be saying is, since it's a foreign variety, I can't help you. But these problems are very real. And when we went to different places in Kuch Bihar, for example, the Teen Bighar corridor and some other places also, maybe we can think of organizing small camps. The agricultural officers from both countries, they can meet and they can address some of the farmers' issues. So that way, it's not only about the seeds, it's also about how to deal with the pest attacks, etc., for those indigenous varieties. So with this, I would like to close today's meeting, thanking everyone, Shira Dadi from VIF, Dr. Ahmed from BIDS, Joitadi from ORF, and all other participants. So thank you everyone.
Thank you Arnav. So on that note, but before calling it a day, let me express my thanks to all of you, definitely. But other than that, let me express my best wishes on the occasion of Basant Panchami and Saraswati Puja, which is just round the corner. And as I said before calling it a day, I would like to say Bharat Bangladesh Maitri Dirghajibi Hope, and see you soon in our next webinar on this subject.